I want to talk a little bit about emotional labor, and my kind of understanding of it comes from Dr. Carmen Martin's work. She and some of her researchers developed a concept called, a therapy called socio-emotional relationship therapy, or CERT. And within CERT, the kind of care and tending of the relationship is considered a mutual task that people in close, intimate relationships do for each other. And there's a range of different skills that are part of that. And both people in the relationship have to do all of them. You can't just kind of opt and just do your favorite skills. So the first one I think is really important, and that's attunement. And that means paying close attention to your partner. And, moms with kids know how to do this really well. They can kind of tell and attune to their children. They can tell when they're looking a little sick or they seem sad, a little quiet. They're obviously, the sort of louder expressions of joy, excitement, and anger are easier to tune to than the quieter, little soft expressions of emotions. And attunement is also just kind of knowing your person, kind of knowing what their favorite foods are and what they like to do before they go to bed, knowing their preferences, knowing how they see the world, their kind of interpretations, the things that make them feel comforted. So attunement really, if you're not paying attention, you really can't do any of the other parts of the emotional work. So attunement is really central and foundational. And the other one, it really has to do with perspective taking, like being able to put your mind in the mind of your person, understanding their point of view, being a good listener is a huge part of that, being able to listen closely, reflect back what you hear them saying so you can get confirmation that your listening has been effective and you really understood what the other person is saying. And then when you have that perspective taking, you want to be able to integrate that into decision making, collective decision making. So by listening closely, by attuning and doing good perspective taking, you have all that you need to make collaborative decisions where you are influenced by each other and you're trying to find middle ground that really takes into account the most important thing for each of you. Can't always have a perfect outcome when you're making decisions, but you don't need to have a muddy compromise. You can kind of integrate the essential, most important parts for both of you when you are making decisions. The other part is mutual vulnerability or openness. Kind of being closed off is giving a message that you are not invested in the relationship. It's going to really signal that you may not be trustworthy because you're kind of keeping things to yourself. So that openness is really important, that openness and that vulnerability and willingness to say things that scare you, bring up issues, talk about your emotions. However, that has to happen mutually. You both have to do it and you both have to be empathic in response to that. So it's, one of you is really open and vulnerable and the other person is empathic. That's, that has to go both ways versus somebody who's very open and vulnerable, wants the comfort, wants the understanding, but isn't willing to do that for the other partner. That's going to be a really big problem. Accommodating each other, sometimes it's just kind of little things in how you live. I make the coffee in the morning. Paul likes to sleep in a little bit. I take him into account with that. And just like, thinking about what's important to your partner and finding a way to meet them where they are. And then the other one is a really, really big one, and that is taking responsibility for the relationship, taking responsibility for repairing, apologizing, holding yourself to account, not avoiding responsibility in the relationship. So all of that stuff is emotional work. We do it for our kind of loved ones, and this is actual labor, and uh, therapists do emotional work all the time. We get paid for it, but understanding that it requires energy and effort to be in intimate relationships, and for it to be functional and healthy, it has to be mutual.